got a good number of people coming on. Good number of people. So, hey, so just while waiting for everyone to come on, how's everyone's week been? It's been interesting. It's been a bit scary. It's been a bit different. Last week I wasn't expecting to be stuck in my house doing nothing, and then now all of a sudden this is my life. So, how's everyone getting on from a mental perspective? Because I think that's one of the biggest keys. Yeah, Josh, I can see you nodding away. Yeah, it's a big impact, isn't it? So, hey, Emily, I can see you. Okay, we're 8, so we're going to kick off. So basically, before we start off, we'll do some housekeeping. The bit of disclaimer for everybody: we're not claiming to be experts on this. Sorry, let me my emails off. So. Okay, so yeah, a bit of a disclaimer, a bit of housekeeping before we start off. The reason why we've done this call is because there's a lot of information going around. There's a lot of things changing on a daily basis. It's a lot of information being disseminated, and it's not moving quick enough. And we're all in we're all in the same industry. We're all working together. So I thought it was a great idea to get this forum together. Let's discuss some of the information that's out there. We can share best practice on how we're protecting our businesses, and also we can learn from one another. So we've got some great people on the call. We've got David, we've got George, Ricky, and we've got our broker Sophia on the call. So we've got lots of experience we can draw on, and they're going to share some insight as we go through some of the different parts of this this webinar. So if anybody does have any questions, or if anybody's got anything they want to share throughout the webinar, please let us know in the chat. So James is going to mute everybody as we go through. But if you do have something you want to share, you've got something burning that you want to add to anything we're talking about, we do want to know. This is a discussion type forum, so please just drop it in the chat, and we'll unmute and we'll discuss and we'll go through, because we want to get all these points nailed down. We want to discuss what's going on and what we can do. But then also at the end as well, if anybody's got any questions or anything they want to add, please drop them in the chat box. And then as we get towards the end, we'll discuss all the questions. So yeah, but basically in terms of getting your information, just this is why we want to do this, because there's so much out there. So we'll start cracking off and we'll talk about where we're up to now. So everybody knows what the current situation is. We've got obviously this coronavirus, which is impacting us quite heavily. And here in the UK, we're tracking ourselves based on how Italy currently are. Now, obviously Italy is the worst affected in Europe. And the statistics as of today, there's almost 5,000 people that have died in Italy as a result of this virus. And now they're obviously in complete lockdown. They're trying to do everything they can to protect the country and protect the people living in the country. And then, obviously, like I say, we're tracking ourselves in the UK versus how their trend went up. And we seem to be matching them day by day at the minute for how their trend has gone up. So based on the current situation, that says to me that, we're not doing enough. We're not doing enough to protect ourselves. So currently in the UK, there's 7,000 cases. As of today, 335 people have died as a result of this. And, the scary statistic is there's 45 people on this call, and 1 or 2 of you will have somebody affected by this. And as a result, in 2-3 months' time, somebody will not be around as a result of the impact of this virus. So I think it's really important to take on board what we can do as a result of this. And that's why I really wanted to get together and have this conversation. One of the big things is social distancing. And I don't think people really understand the impact that social distancing has and the reasons why we're doing it. So, and I'll be honest, until I did my research, I was a little bit ignorant towards the social distancing and the impact it would have on the systems in place. So, when I saw the trends and the curves, everyone keeps talking about this flattening the curve. And the whole point behind this flattening the curve is if we see a spike in cases, so everybody gets the virus quite quickly, and then the curve comes down just as quickly. Now, the problem with that is so many people get the virus so quickly. When they're hitting our hospitals, the hospital systems can't keep up with the demand for people that are hitting hospital beds. So unfortunately, what's going to happen is the hospitals will have to make some serious decisions about who lives and who dies. And obviously, that's not a situation that anybody wants to make. Somebody on James, can you just make sure that everyone's muted? I can hear the background. Sorry, guys. So yeah, if obviously the cases increase at a quicker rate, it's going to mean that hospitals can't keep up with that demand, and ultimately they're going to have to make decisions on a hospital level of basically who lives and who dies. Now, that's not nobody wants to see that happen, because everybody wants to see their loved ones quite protected throughout this. So the reason for this social distancing is because it sort of flattens that curve. So it decreases the amount of people that are catching this virus. So it means it's helping the systems in place, the hospitals, to cope with the demand, because less demand comes in. It comes in at a slower scale and fades off in a slower scale, which means that that's obviously going to help protect everybody. And I mean, I've been out today to buy essentials, and you guys have probably seen it. I've seen queues and queues and hordes of people out there. People are not stopping going outside. So it's really important that, we do our part. We understand the reasons why the government are doing what they're doing in terms of social distancing and why we're looking to do that. And like we said, the situation is changing on a daily basis. Just to give you an example, last week we were potentially going to be running live events. I was doing viewings, and now even just less than 7 days later, that whole circumstance has completely changed, and now we're not doing that at all. And even now, as we're on this call, the Prime Minister's due to make an announcement about how he's going to be changing, how he's tackling this in the UK, and how we're going to be putting more strict measures into place, because too many people still are outside, and the chances are we're going to end up in a situation where we have a full lockdown, because people are not taking this seriously. And I think now it's really important that we understand the consequences of this. So in terms of the economy as well, there are going to be huge consequences in the economy as a result of this as well. Businesses will go bankrupt. It is going to happen. We are already seeing people losing their jobs. And, there's thousands of people out there that are going to be impacted as a result of this. And there will be a lasting economic impact as a result of what's going to happen. However, the key message out there is, and again, this is the whole reason why we joined this call, and I'm so grateful so many people are on here, is if we stick together and I think that's got to be the key message that we take away. So, I've been doing a lot of research as we've been going along, and been looking at lots of webinars, been lots of, speaking to quite a few people. And as I see it, there's two main problems we're facing as a result of this virus. And I think if we start to narrow down on how we can help against them, then we can start to put things into place to protect ourselves and our businesses. So the first big problem that we're seeing is fear. Now, fear is a huge, huge problem. And the problem with fear is this causes mass uncertainty. And then when people are uncertain, they make rash decisions. And one of the biggest rash decisions that people are making at the minute is this panic buying. So it becomes like a mob mentality, because fear is contagious. And one person sees somebody go out and buys 10 packets of toilet rolls, and all of a sudden the next person does it, and the next person does it. And then that's how we've ended up in this situation. I used to work as a retail manager. I did this for 9 years. I know how stock works in the retail industry. I worked for Sainsbury's, big distribution. There is plenty of stock out there. What there is not an abundance of a system to supply that stock to the stores, because as we're saying earlier, it's not as serious as the hospitals having to make decisions about whether people live or die. But from the warehouse perspective, in terms of distributing this stock, if all of a sudden the system realizes that a local store is selling 10 times the amount of a product that they never used to have, the system now needs to cope with that and try and send more stock out to that store. But then if there's only a certain amount of stock available to send out to these stores, then it's got to come from somewhere else. And big companies like Sainsbury's, they do protect the stores that make more money. So it's taken time for their stocking systems because everything's had to be manually adjusted. You can't just expect the systems to all of a sudden say, right, this store now needs 10 cases of toilet rolls versus the original one that it was getting. So there is plenty of stock out there, and if everyone, like I says, buys, I've been into supermarkets today to buy cat litter and to buy essentials, and I have seen the levels starting to level back out again. So you should start to see this. There is plenty of stock out there, and hopefully that if businesses continue the way they're going, the stock will start to come back. I think the second thing we fear is it's important to focus on what's in your control, because I'm quite fearful of what's going to happen. I'm quite fearful of how it's going to impact my business, but I know I can only deal with the things that are in my control. So there's various things within my business focusing on them right now. What I do need to be focused on is how I can look after my tenants, how I can look after my houses, and how I can make sure that in 6 months' time, when we come out of all this, my business is still there as a result. And finally, in terms of fear, I think, one of the things we can focus on with this is about a growth mindset. And we've got Tom Cook on with a webinar with us this evening. I was on a webinar with him the other day, and he was talking about mindset and how that can help you get through this. Anything you want to add on that, Tom, just before we carry on?
Thanks, Anthony, and thanks for inviting me on. I really appreciate that. Amazing to see 56 people in this webinar as well at a time like this. So hats off to all of you for wanting to grow, for wanting to learn and get better. I think what you said around that taking control, there is so much that is out of our control right now, but there is also so much that is in control for you guys right now that you can focus on and that you can develop, that you can take charge of. And if you can hone in on that, if you can focus on that right now, your businesses are going to explode. So, you have a choice. You can either get washed up in what is out of control for you, or you can really figure out, what is it that I can change? What is it that I have control over? And that's really going to help and support you. Thanks, Anthony.
Excellent. Thanks, Tom. So, and then the second problem, as I see it, is that people are going to run out of money. And, we know the statistics, we know with the environment that we're currently in, most people are one paycheck away from being broke. Now, that might be you, or that might be your tenants, or that might be just the person that lives down the street from you. But the reality is that we are, most people are actually one paycheck away from being broke. So people running out of money can mean that businesses are going to go bust. It can mean that tenants are not going to pay rent. I know I've got tenants myself, and I've been umming and ahhing whether to contact them. I don't know what the right thing to do is, because, the reality is that some of them potentially are not going to pay me rent either this month or next month. And actually, as a result of that as well, that means you might not be able to afford your personal rent payments or your mortgage payments. Now, there are a lot of government initiatives out there. And I think we actually really need to hold our hands up and say, I think personally the government are handling this in a really good manner. I think day by day, as I'm watching the news and seeing what's happening quite well. And some of the initiatives out there, I think they are going to support our economy. And I think as a result of this, what they're trying to do is, I know when this first came about, we're talking about social distancing, and most people are like, well, I'm not going to do that because I need to put food on the table. I've got to keep working because I've got to keep putting food on the table. But actually, that's why the government have gone to these such extreme measures to put these things into place to support people. And there is still a long way to go. The big thing I'm seeing at the minute is around self-employed people. There's not enough to support them at the minute, but I think it will come. And I'm just going to drop in the text box here. So I actually pulled this off another group. So this was done by a friend of mine. And it just talks about all the, so this was done by a friend of mine, Nathan Winch, who talks about, just highlights all together, all of the initiatives that, I will add that after, it's not letting me copy it. So it just talks about all, a summary of all the things that the government are doing in terms of the 80% payment that's going to be paid for employees, talks about tax self-assessments and all the things that we can do in terms of how we can access these grants and schemes that are available for us. So yeah, I'll pop that on in a minute when I can figure out why it's not copying across. Okay, so the next thing is really, let me just pull up some of these comments first before I move on. So what have we got here? Okay, yes, this recording will be available later. We're going to put it up for you after. Pietro, I have a family in Milan and cousin working in intensive care. Exactly. So that just highlights my point earlier in terms of how we need to protect people like that, and economic backlash. We're going to talk about that, John. We're going to give you our opinions on that, about what we see. So it'd be great to get your insights as we go along that. So in terms of how to deal with the current problems, we said the two main problems that we're seeing, one is fear and one is people are going to run out of money. So I think the first most important thing is now is the time to set the example. We need to be the leaders, and every single one of you on a Monday evening is in your house on this webinar. So already you're not, out boozing, out seeing friends, out seeing relatives. So you need to continue doing that. John's laughing his head off like, yeah, I'm never out boosted. But the thing is, we need to set the example right now, because like I said, I've been out twice to buy essentials, and I'm only buying what I need when I need it. But each time I've gone out, I've seen people at the park. I've seen the park hoarded with people. As soon as we get an opportunity for some sun, everybody is out and about. And that's not going to help us at the minute. So I think it's really important that you set the example for the people around you. And, the reality is we're talking about fear. I've seen lots of fear out there. So I've seen lots of negative comments as well. I've seen, and it's about educating people. You might see somebody on social media posting about going to see friends and family. They might not understand the impact of that and the impact of the people around them. Sending them death threats isn't going to solve the problem. Educating them and being the example is. And like Tom said earlier, working on keeping your mindset positive is really important. And I read an article the other day, and you're all going to laugh about this, but it said about keeping routine. So the most important thing is in the morning is get up, get a shower, get dressed, and act like you're going to go out for your day. If you sit around in your pajamas all day pretending you're going to go and do work, your mindset will go to the exact same place. It will go to a lazy place, and you're less focused. And right now is a situation where people with anxiety and depression, need routine more than anything. And it's great that we can support one another and have these conversations, because these people are going to need it, and if any of you ever need to have a conversation like that, then just reach out, whether it be to myself, or whether it be to somebody else. It is important that we just reach out and have that conversation. And then the third thing is, now is a great time to get your business in order. So I've been in the house now since last Wednesday, and I've done all the things that have been on my, on my notice board that over the last 3 or 4 months, I've been so busy traveling that I just haven't had the time to do. So now is the time to follow up on them emails. Now is the time to follow up on their misleads. Now is the time to go out and get them direct to vendor letters set up and sent. Use this as an opportunity to put systems in place to grow your business. Because what we don't want to do, you don't want to end up in 3 or 4 months' time when everyone says, right, you can all come back out again now. And you think that you've missed. It's important to plan social time in your house. but I think it's really important to just put things into place to get your business into place now. And then finally, the lockdown for most people, they're no longer traveling, you're working from home. So it's given you the gift of time. Most people will travel an hour or so to work a day. So we're looking at 3 hours a day that you've just gained back in your life. So now is the time to be building rapport with people that you wouldn't have normally had the time to, whether that be estate agents, whether it be letting agents, because there is going to be a boom of houses being sold outside of this. And I really do believe that. And I really do believe that now is your greatest opportunity to build relationships with people so that you can make your business extremely strong when we come out of all of this. And, we are seeing, I was hoping to continue to do viewings to try and source properties on. And I've actually had 3 or 4 agents already cancel viewings on me, just because even though these are empty homes, because, everyone knows my big strategy is buy, refurbish, refinance. So I'm looking at empty homes as it is. But actually the agents are saying, we're actually closing down viewings. We're not doing viewings anymore. But some of them are starting to do virtual tours. So it means that business can still continue. And, I might not buy a buy, refurbish, refinance house from a virtual tour, but it'll definitely give me an opportunity to build a great relationship with that agent so that they know exactly what I'm looking for, because ultimately they're going to want to keep their business going. And, they don't want to hit everything cold in 3 months' time when they've got to start building rapport back up with people. They've got to start selling properties again. So if you can build that relationship now, it's really important. And I actually saw a quote online today. I just want to share this with you. And I think this really sort of highlights where we are right now. It said, in times of darkness, it is the light of a few that will guide the many. And I think right now, you guys need to be the light and show others how they can continue to grow their business in these fearless times. So I really, I want you to take that away from this and how you can grow your business. Okay, so James, do you want to add anything on that before I continue?
I mean, personally, for me, being at home isn't too bad. I run most of my business from home anyway. But what I found before when I was traveling out and, I was going to courses and stuff like that, I found exactly the same thing as you, is when you get home, you have more time than you usually do. And time is the one thing that you'll never get more of. It's the one thing that investors most look after, because it is the only finite resource we have. And for me, being at home, as you say, I can get through those list of things I haven't done. I can reply to that email I've been putting off. I can spend time thinking about my business and where it's going to be in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. I can begin to plan and put action points in place to allow that to happen. And I find that when a busy world, when you're out doing viewings all the time, you're going to training courses, or you're looking after a family, you've got kids, you lack sometimes some time and some space to just sit and think about where you're at and where you want to be, plan out some new goals and some strategies how you're going to get there. And in a world where we are so busy, there are gifts within this. As terrible as it all is, there are still good things about it. And one of them is the fact that we have the time to think about what we want to do in the future. And we're going to be talking a little bit later about what we think the market's going to do after this and the kind of things that are going to happen. And that is going to require some preparation. It's going to require some time to spend thinking about what we're going to do during that period. And we've been given it now. Back in 2008, we didn't really have much of a lead up to it. It kind of almost came as a shock to us, most of us, overnight. We didn't even know it was going to happen. Now we've got a little bit more warning about what's going to happen. We've got a little bit more time to consider how we're going to act in this. So I would suggest get through, obviously, the list, as you say, things that you haven't done, but also spend some time thinking about how you can make money and how you can up your business or make more sales or whatever it might be during what's to come. And regardless of whether or not there's likely to be a recession, you've still got time to think about what you want to do. Yeah, that would kind of be the only thing I would say to add to that, is spend time thinking about what you want to be doing.
Excellent. Thanks, James. So just had a question coming there from Dave. It says, my girlfriend and I are recently getting into our property venture and haven't set our business up yet. What would your advice be for getting started just now in this current situation, or should we wait? We're going to cover off so what we're going to talk about now is we're going to talk about COVID-19 and its effect on the market, its effect on different types of areas of the market. And then we're also going to talk about potential recessions and what that looks like. So we're going to talk about market conditions now and pluses and negatives of what's going on. So hopefully we'll cover off your question. If we don't, then we'll go into a bit more detail at the end. But thank you. Let's carry on. So as I said, we're going to talk about COVID-19 itself now and the effects on the market. So firstly, we're going to talk about the rental market. And as it stands at the minute, the rental market is actually staying quite strong. People are still renting property. But if we go into lockdown, this is going to be impacted because even though there is a demand for people still wanting to rent properties out there, there will be no viewings because no agents are going to want to go out and do these viewings on these properties because they're obviously, they're going to be protecting their safety and they're going to be following the advice of the government that have just set up new HMOs, and they've actually filled them within weeks because there are key workers still out there. There are people still out there looking to rent. So in terms of actual main rental demand, I believe it's still there. In terms of your current rental demand, I think this is a really important thing. And this is the one thing that I think from a fear perspective, we're seeing a lot of at the minute. So I personally think now is the time that you need to love your tenants. And I don't mean physically, please guys, don't be going around there. I mean, in terms of actually looking after them and, and seeing how we can protect them going forward. Now, an interesting statistic for you is the average tenant will stay in your property 4 years and 3 months. So if we just take that on board for a minute, take on board what I'm saying in terms of loving your tenants. So we're all very fearful at the minute as landlords and focusing on, oh my God, is my tenant going to tell me they want 3 months free rent from me? Are they going to want rent holidays? How does that impact me in my business? Actually, let's think of the statistics. They're going to be staying in your properties potentially for 4 years. So it would be foolish of you now not to have a conversation with your tenants to understand what's going on. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I've got tenants in my properties and I self-manage 2 of my own properties just because how they fell and it just what I do. Now, I've been very fearful about contacting these tenants because, and I think most of you on the call are probably thinking the same thing, is that if I contact these tenants to ask them if they're okay, are they then all of a sudden going to go, yeah, I can't pay the rent and want 3 months free rent? Whereas if I leave it, are they just going to think nothing of it and continue to pay me rent? And I suppose the problem with it is it's a catch-22 situation because I obviously have a mortgage to pay and I want to make sure that I can pay the mortgage. But at the same time, I need to know that the money's coming in for that. So I think right now, if your tenants have contacted you, then you need to be having a conversation with them. You need to be supporting them. But then at the same time as well, you need to be explaining to them what this rent holiday that they potentially want is. Because I was speaking to a friend the other day and, they own their own house, not very educated with property. And in her mind, she was going to get 3 months free on her mortgage, because she's got a cough. But that's not the reality. And I think it just comes back to education again, because we're saying it's a rent break. It's a rent holiday. It's not free. So this is why it's important to love your tenants and to speak to them right now, because you guys know the demographic of your tenants. Now, I know for a fact that one of my tenants, if they did have a rent holiday and had to make that rent up somewhere else, the reality is they won't be able to afford it. So that actually, I'm going to be disservicing my tenants and putting them in a worse situation because they then, can't make up this rent throughout the year. So it's important to educate them and to help them to understand that this rent holiday, that rent still needs to be paid. It's just going to be paid in a different term. So yes, to protect your circumstances now, we're going to give you 3 months rent-free period or rent holiday period. But that money which has been missed is going to be made up somewhere else. So, is it a case of rent reductions? Is it a case of getting something? And it's really important to have that conversation with them to understand what it is and you can do to protect them. So yeah, I think it still needs to be, had. That conversation still needs to be had with them. And so what I'm going to do with mine is all my mortgages are due on the 1st. I have a buffer in place to protect me for at least 3 months. I don't want to use all that because potentially I'm going to need it for myself. And I think it's important that you guys have a buffer in place for yourself and your business. And if you haven't got it right now, this needs to be the time when you really think about protecting your business going forward. So what I'm going to do with my business is I've got my buffer in place. If they don't pay me rent on the 1st, I can have the conversation with them then of, what's going on, how can I protect you, how can I look after you, and see how I can help them going forward. But I'm already going to get across to them about this rent holiday and explain to them that money will still need to be made up somewhere else. So I think there's a fine balance between the two. Your tenants, whether they're going to use it as an excuse. I was talking to somebody the other day. He's got 20 years experience as a landlord. He knows his tenants. He knows if he had this conversation with them, they're all of a sudden going to say, yeah, I'm not paying you rent. I don't have that much experience with tenants. I have a couple of years. So, for me, I was going to entertain the conversation now and hope that the next rent payment's paid. If not, then I'm going to obviously go from there with it. But I think the second thing in terms of the rental market that I want to talk about as well is I've had 2 emails today, and I believe actually we can draw on some experience. We've got Tina on the call, I hope. I had 2 emails today regarding rent guarantee insurance. And these are coming from letting agents where they're contacting me saying, take out rent guarantee insurance. And I was talking to somebody yesterday who said that he'd actually been contacted by a letting agent in the current climate to take out rent guarantee insurance. Now, the reality is that if you take out this insurance, it may not protect you for this virus. And that's really important to understand that right now, that taking out rent guarantee insurance, you need to read through the small print of it. You need to check that it's going to cover COVID-19 because ultimately, there's usually a period as well where they do no claims in the first 90 days. So the last thing you want to do is take out this insurance policy now and then you find out it's not covering you in the long term. And also I was reading an article yesterday to say that some of these the insurers are actually pulling these products from the market because they don't want the claims ratio to go up on these rent guarantee insurance. So if you're going to take them out, it's really important to just have a look into that, make sure it's protecting your tenants and make sure it's right for you. So I'm going to open it up there. I know I've got George and Tina on the call and James as well. Do you guys want to add anything to that point? I know we've been talking quite heavily about the rental market. So you guys want to add anything at this point?
Yeah, I mean, like you say, Tina's on it, and I'd love to get Tina up if she can to speak about a few bits. Tina runs a lot of HMOs up in Burnley, and she's very, very knowledgeable at this sort of thing. Letting agents really know your markets where you're looking in, and although it's going to be a little bit difficult to book viewings in with new tenants and all the rest of it, people still have to live somewhere. People are still looking to move. And going back to the time comment I made earlier, if any of you have ever moved house, you know just how much hassle it is. And if you had 2 weeks where you're working from home, you had time to pack boxes while you're taking phone calls, and your kids are running around or whatever. When you have time, that is the perfect time to move house. I know a lot of people will be looking to put it off for financial reasons. But when this finishes, a lot of people are going to have prepped to then begin to move house. And for me, rental markets, especially when we've got a downward trend, a downward sort of market that's going, the rental market's always really, really solid because people can't buy. And I think a lot of you, if I said to you, what sounds worse, the rental market at the moment or lending, like you probably all say lending, and lending affects people who are buying and people who are selling. It doesn't affect people who are renting. So, I mean, from what we've seen, we put houses on the market, we're still renting stuff out. Any fluctuations in the market are very much local things about local contractors and things like that. A lot of it isn't really COVID focused. There's some in the air. There are, like I say, it's more difficult for tenants to do viewings. but it's pretty straightforward. I mean, Tina, do you have anything else to add to that? You're unmuted now.
All right. Hi. Some really great points. It's been well worth joining. Thanks for that. We steer clear of the rent guarantees. And for us, for anybody to advise taking these on right now, right at this moment, just seems like a bit of a ploy to get you on the books to us. Our tactic is, well, it's not really a tactic. Your tenants are people. They're just as scared about this situation as you are. There's been a lot of talk about a blanket, no evictions across the next 3 month period. I think that will be altered, but I don't think that's going to be brought in fully. I think there's got to be a lot of detail added to that.
Who are you?
Is what, sorry?
Sorry, I don't know who that was there. Carry on, Tina.
Sorry. So yeah, in regards to the rent guarantee, it's not something that we'd recommend. We recommend talking to your tenants. We found that offering, just being there as an agent or a landlord, telling them that you're there to support them and just keeping the lines of contact open, support them through this as much as they need to support you through this. And we've had a great response. If people are going to be a little bit short or worried financially, just tell them that you're going to be there. Tell them that, all right, don't worry, maybe we'll half your rent this month and we'll see how you get on, just for that peace of mind. And we've had a massively good response.
Excellent. And like I said, I think that's it. And it's really great to get that insight from somebody, who is dealing directly with tenants. It is important now to have that conversation now more than ever. You touched upon tenant evictions. It's something I want to talk about as well, because it's big with the rental market and it's going to be a big thing that some landlords are really worried about. So I was reading an article online yesterday, and you can actually see this. I'll pop it in the comments later as well, that what most courts are currently doing, because if you think about it, courts are locking down as well. So current eviction cases are actually being adjourned. So if experienced landlords out there that are going through these eviction cases at the minute, that have put Section 8s into place, that are trying to evict tenants as it is, and they're going through court proceedings, that actually, even though it's saying that new claim possessions can't go ahead, even existing ones that are already happening have been adjourned for 3 months. So, and that's why it's important that we have these conversations with tenants right now, because it's all about protecting yourself and protecting the business. And, as I just mentioned there, what the government have said, and Tina's touched, is can be submitted for 3 months. Now, there may be some movement on this. There may be some change with it. I know there is circumstances that the tenant has to adhere to. So they have to be up to date with their rent payments, and there's other things that they need to have adhered to in order to for this not to affect them. But your general day-to-day tenant that's potentially not going to be looking to pay you, currently you cannot claim a possession case against them for 3 months. So that's going to be quite difficult. Does anybody want to add anything on tenant evictions at the minute? I know we've got George, James. Anybody that wants to add anything on that, or Tina? No? Okay, we'll move along. So we're going to talk about, so that's the rental market. Next thing I'm going to talk about, and I've seen some comments coming in a minute. So Joe, about the SA market. I know we're getting a little bit itchy on this, and we've got Ricky on the call as well, so he's going to share some insight into this. The SA market has been impacted hugely as a result of this. Now, for any of you that got serviced accommodation, you will already have seen the impact of this. For any of you that are on any kind of property group, just in the last 3 or 4 days, you'll have seen hundreds of posts on people with serviced accommodations. So it has been affected quite drastically. There are lots of cancellations, and there are lots and lots and lots of people just giving keys back to the vendor. Now, this for me doesn't sit very well. It's not the right thing to be doing, because you've got to think about the long-term impacts of this. Because if your business has started to fail, or you've hit a bump in the road, you know, nobody ever said that this was going to be easy. You know, and we always said that the service accommodation, although there's a great cash flow from it, it is quite a difficult market, and it needs to be run as a business, not just as something, you know, as a hobby. So I have seen lots of people recently that are just giving keys back to vendors and saying, I'm really sorry, this hasn't worked, I can't pay you. Now, that just doesn't sit very well. So it's really important that you have conversations with them, just the same way we're saying have conversations with your tenants. So at the site of something, you know, a struggle, it's really important, if you've got service accommodation, have a conversation with your vendor or the agent or whoever you deal with, and just explain to them what's going on and see how they can support you. So I've got 5 apartments that we've got on lease option that we do as service accommodation. Now, we've been able to rent them out separately, which is quite good, but I've got 4 apartments that we do as service accommodation rent to rent. Now, we've contacted all of the vendors, and actually I've had 3 or 4 emails back so far. I'm still waiting on 1 vendor to contact me. All have been extremely positive. So the 1 vendor who we deal with, actually, he lives abroad. So he lives in France. So he sent me an email this evening saying, completely understand the situation. Thank you so much for getting in contact with us. We definitely want to work with you because we're seeing the impact here in France too. Would you like to see this happening going forward? So now we're in a situation where I understand that, you know, most people that have got into service accommodation are in this because they want to make money. But actually right now, it's about self-preservation. It's about protecting your business and making sure that your business is still there in a few months' time. I've also seen lots of people focusing on places for the NHS and workers to stay. But then on the flip side of that, I was watching the news and obviously saw that they addressed this in the House of Commons, saying how that people should be self-isolating at home as a result of going to service accommodation units and going to these self-isolating homes. They should be doing it from their own home anyway. But we do know that there are people that have come out of retirement for the NHS. I saw 3 or 4 emails floating around today for people looking for places to stay that are visiting hospitals. So do reach out. And again, you know, the biggest point we started off by saying was get your information from the correct sources. So do go direct to the NHS. Do focus on the people that are recruiting in the area to see if they need people to stay, rather than picking up this information from secondhand. But, you know, do focus on these people, because I think it's really going to help protect you at the minute. And most people are doing reduced stays because, again, ultimately, like I said, right now it's about protecting your business. If you make no profit and you break even, or if you can get a reduction on your rent for the next 3 months and you can pay all the bills by having some people stay in there that are with the NHS or that are key workers in the area, that right now is going to protect your business, rather than being that person that's just handing the keys back up and throwing them back to the vendor and saying, it's not working for me, it's just not happening. But then on the opposite side to that, if you are watching this, or if you know somebody that's got into service accommodation and for them it's just not the right business and they're not managing it right now, then absolutely, if it's never going to work for you, and even outside of the back of this, your business is going to fail, then now is the best opportunity to have a conversation with the vendor and explain to them that, you know, the business isn't working, because we said there is rental demand out there. There is people out there looking for rental demand. So it's about doing the right thing for your business model going forward. And I personally think that coming out of the back of this, once isolation has ended, don't forget that, you know, in the UK, the way the service accommodation market works in terms of, we have obviously business people travel to us. We have people come in for specific meetings in the area. We have tradespeople, and then we have holidays. So that's the kind of types of people that you'll get in that order. But then people that are booking holidays, we tend to, in the UK, book holidays at 2 points in the year. So usually at the end of the year, when we start to get into winter, we book holidays for the next year. And then sort of now time, sort of mid-March, April, we start to book our holidays for the summer, these last little getaways. And in the service accommodation market, you always see a spike in bookings at this time of year. Now, we're obviously not going to see that because all these bookings are getting cancelled last minute and everybody is sort of running for the hills and hiding in their houses. Now, I personally think what's going to happen when we come out of this isolation period, when we come out of this lockdown period, what's going to happen is all these people that have cancelled their holidays, the financial impact it's had on them, they're going to want to go on these, what I heard somebody call staycations. So where they're just going to be looking for a getaway, they're going to be looking to, they're getting out the house, nobody's seen them for 3 months. They've just got outside the house now and they're going to want to go somewhere. So again, we talk about doing things right now to focus on your business for the future. I think right now you should be focusing your marketing right now to make sure that when we come out the back of this isolation period, your business is ready to be marketed as one of these staycation places so that people have got somewhere to go and have a break with family and to go somewhere and to get out of the house. So again, I'm just going to open this up. I know we've got quite a few people who've got service accommodation on the call. Ricky, I'd love to hear some of your insights on this. And then if anybody else wants to add about service accommodation, I'd really like to hear it.
Hey, yeah. Thanks for having us on. Good to see everyone. It's funny actually because literally a few hours ago, this afternoon at about 4 or 5 o'clock, I was recording a video to upload onto social media, offering some advice and help for people that have service accommodations at the minute. But what I've learned is it's just so uncertain at the minute about what's going on. And I thought I'm going to announcement this evening before I actually put the video out because something could change. And then, I don't know if you've seen it, but 15 minutes ago, we've been told we have to stay in our houses and the police can enforce fines for people being out their house unless they're exercising, going to work or going to shops. So, with all of this going on, it's like, what kind of advice is the right advice to give? All I can tell you is what I'm going to be doing moving forward. And my biggest, what I'm going to focus on now is, as Anthony said, is communication, because there's so many different flip sides and pros and cons to everything. So I'll give an example with regards to putting people in there that are contractors and NHS staff and everything like that. Yes, we can do that. But on the flip side, it's like, if they're going to stay in there for 2-3 months, then they're going to really have to be expected to clean the apartment themselves, because cleaning companies and my management company, they're shutting for 3 months now. The cleaning companies in the area, they're not going to be sending cleaners into apartments for health and safety reasons. So unless they're going to be willing to clean it themselves, then, you have to ask yourself, is that going to work? Are they going to be happy with that? So there's loads of pros and cons to it that you have to weigh up. And the only way to really figure this out, if you've got service accommodation at the minute, the only way to figure this out is by communication, by talking to companies that are still open at the minute. If there are any that are going to be open this week, speaking with your landlord, as Anthony said, speak to your landlord and see if there's anything you can work out. I was thinking about, what I was going to do with mine, because listen, I'm going to be direct to everyone and tell you that this is a hard time and there's struggles, which everyone with service accommodation is struggling. No one's going to sugarcoat. I'm not going to sit here and say mine are doing great this month, because trust me, they're not, and I have to sit back and look at what am I going to do? And, how am I going to fill these void periods? And I came to the conclusion that the best thing is just to communicate and just be honest, because at the end of the day, we're all in the same boat. So I wrote a letter to my landlord 4 days ago. And I said to her, obviously she knows I'm operating as a business. We're going for a tough time at the minute. I hope you're doing well. Is there anything we can kind of agree or, come to an arrangement over the next few months to see us past this time? Because I don't want to burn my bridges. Someone said to me the other day, I've got a break clause that I can exercise to get out of mine. And I said to him, look, if it's working up until the last month when all of this started, then don't exercise your break clause now. Because off the back of it, like Anthony said, I think, in my opinion, service accommodation is going to boom. So don't exercise a break clause now unless financially, and you cannot come to an agreement with the landlord, unless financially this is going to cripple you and you're not going to be able to live, then I wouldn't be exercising break laws and burning bridges with, service accommodations that I've already got, because off the back of this, I think they're going to do really. Employees and directors are going to be going across the country to build their businesses, and I think it's going to be fine. But right now, we just have to communicate and just see this as we're all in the same boat. When we're speaking with landlords, we're all in the same boat. Now, if you're on this call and you haven't got service accommodation and you're looking to get into it, again, I'm going to be direct. I'm going to be completely direct, because I don't want to mislead anyone. If I was looking at service accommodation now, I'd hold it off for the next 2 months, or until letting agents are doing viewings again. Okay, and right now I'd be being proactive, and I'd be doing my due diligence on what areas I'm going to focus on. Where am I going to do my due diligence? Where am I going to dominate as an area for service accommodation? I would not be taking on any right now, because it's just they've got void periods and we don't know how long for. But the slightest sight of it picking back up and everything becoming back to normal, then I'd be jumping on it. So right now, if you haven't got service accommodation, I'd be being proactive, looking at your patch, doing your due diligence. And as soon as there a moment of, okay, things are getting back to normal, then you need to start making your phone calls. Then you need to start booking your viewings and getting on top of things. But that's what I'd be doing. Stay proactive. And as soon as there's a sight of it picking back up, then, I'd be going crazy, because I think it's going to boom. As long as there's no more regulations that come in, like the 90-day rule, if things stay the same way that they are now, when this is all over, then I think it's going to rocket, because of, like what Anthony said earlier, with businesses that are going to need people, traveling to stay and stuff like that. But I just hope you guys are all well. And, this is a great call to be a part of, by the way. So thanks, Anthony, James, for putting this on. And hopefully, everyone that's spoken has kind of at least helped one person on here and given someone some motivation.
Excellent. Yeah, I love that, Ricky. Thank you. If I will, Anthony was mentioning a list of stuff earlier the government are putting out. One of the things on that list is a cash grant. It's not a loan. It's not an interest-free pre-loan. It's just free money from the government for anybody in hospitality. Now, you can get up to 10 grand or 25 grand, depending on turnover and stuff like that. And there are eligibility requirements, so check them out. But if you're in SA, you are in a hospitality business. You just have to be able to prove it. And like I said, this is better than mortgage holidays or tenant holidays. This is literally free money. You don't have to pay it back. There's no interest. You get it paid quickly, and you can get all that back. I know a lot of us running SA, I've just been through a massive battle for about 8 months with the Reading Council regarding business rates and council tax. As it turns out, we lost about a week ago. And as we lost, the government said you can have a 3 years business rates. So they're also backdating the ones that we should have had to pay for January, February, and March. And for me, like, the cash flow is actually better than it was before, because we're not paying business rates, which are quite costly. And in the cash grants, actually the next few months, they're going to do pretty well if we were to use obviously that cash grant and call it profit. And then speaking with landlords, like you say, getting for us, it was just a case of, look, can we have a little bit of a discount for these 3 months? Like, is it okay if we just drop the rent down by a couple of £100? We'll still cover it, and then later on in the year we can look at topping that back up or whatever. And she was very, very open to it. I think a lot of vendors and a lot of landlords, it seems quite sort of daunting almost to go and speak to them and say, look, what's going on? Like, can we negotiate here? In reality, they still want you there because you're going to be there for 3 years. You're still a long-term tenant. All the benefits of service accommodation still apply. No maintenance, no voids, long-term tenant. All this is still true. It's just we're experiencing a bit of a lull, and they will probably think the normal rental market is exactly the same. They're going to get a lull there as well. So in this case, you can say, look, why don't we knock off a bit rather than just completely exercising the break clause like Ricky said, or saying, look, can we just not pay rent for a few months? It's a negotiation. Anything you can get is good, but definitely look into the cash grants you can get. I mean, like I say, 10 grand for most people doing SA, that's going to be 4, 5, 6 months rent. That's a lot of money, and it's free for you. So even if you're not doing badly, I've seen some people with like 3-month bookings, 2-month bookings, and they're doing really, really well. You can still get the money. Like, it's free money for anybody in the hospitality industry. Of course, it's aimed towards hotels and guest houses, but you should be able to make a pretty good case for service accommodation as a hospitality industry, as you're catering for people. It will come down obviously to a whole host of things. And there is obviously eligibility you have to meet. But read through it, speak to people in the industry, as Ricky said. There's awesome service accommodation groups on Facebook. If you need managers, you need cleaners, there are still a few operating, very, very few. Speak around, see what's going on. help each other out. The whole idea of this video was a community, sort of getting people together while they're at home, give them something to do, allowing people to educate each other, raise questions, discuss topics. The same is true when we're not on this call and you're at home, like later on in the week, whatever, on Facebook. Get on some of the groups, start messaging around, find out what people are doing. People have always been really, really helpful when I've asked for stuff. And I like to think that I'm the same when I'm speaking to other people. Ask and you will receive. If you don't ask, you will never get. So my advice is see if you can get a cash grant and then negotiate with landlords, as both of you just said. Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks for that, James. And just while we've been talking about different things there, I have been reading through some of the comments. And just to go back to what I said in terms of contacting people, you know, Rohan's put in here in the chat that they filled 3 of their new SA units this week with local authority housing as an emergency accommodation. And they're paying just under market rates, 100% occupancy for the next few months. So that will have all come through having a conversation and targeting the right people that need the things right now. So absolutely amazing. Well done. That's fantastic. Okay, so the next thing is in terms of how this virus is affecting us right now. We're going to talk about mortgage holidays. So we talked about how it's affecting our tenants. We talked about how it's affecting our other business, our rental business. Now we're going to talk about how it's affecting sort of our mortgages personally. Now I must admit, and I'm going to hold my hands up and say this, when I saw these mortgage holidays, I thought, oh, great, it's fine. No problems for me because I can take advantage of this mortgage holiday should I encounter an issue. But I think one of the really important things is, I've been talking to some people the last couple of days, and I know George is on the call. We've been talking quite heavily about this, and we've got Sophia, so I'm hoping she can share some points towards the end of this as well. The mortgage holidays, we still don't know enough about how that's going to impact you and your credit line. And I think that's really important to, if you are going for these mortgage holidays, it is there to protect you, should you not have the income coming in your buy-to-let properties, or even in your personal properties, if you've been affected as a result of the coronavirus. So I think it's really important to have these conversations about how it's going to affect your credit line, because if we can take advantage of these mortgage holidays, that's absolutely fantastic because it's protecting you and your business. But then if it stops you from receiving the line of credit later on down the line, then it probably wasn't worth taking that free money, dip into the buffer that, like I said to you to start with, you need to start building this buffer for your business. So you should dip into your buffer initially if it is that it's going to impact you quite heavily as a result on your credit line. So just make sure to have that conversation. Don't just jump on the bandwagon because we can take advantage of these mortgage holidays. Find out how it's going to impact you. Find out how it's going to impact your credit. And I think the other thing with the mortgage, the mortgage holidays as well, is I've actually been on the phone to one of my mortgage companies today, just trying to see if I can get one, because like I said, I know one of the tenants is not going to pay. And it was 4 hours on the phone and didn't get through to anybody. So these businesses have been heavily enough infrastructure in the call centers, even though they've got people working from home, so they're pulling people in left, right, center to support with this system. There's not enough people to pick up the phones because everybody is going after this mortgage holiday option. The second thing to add to that as well is, don't go for it straight away. Just hold back until you absolutely need to. Only do it once you know your tenant is not going to pay. Because right now, I think it's about, again, protecting the systems that are there. I had an email from the Halifax, who's got one of my mortgages with me, my personal one, saying to me that they're actually putting systems in place so that you can actually make this mortgage holiday this mortgage holiday request on their website, just to sort of free up the lines of system, just to make sure that everybody can sort of take advantage of this and no one's going to miss out and nobody's going to be impacted by that. So just before we move on from that, that's just my opinions on the mortgage holiday. Sophia, from your perspective, have you got anything you'd like to add on that?
Hiya. Yeah, so just on the mortgage holiday thing, there was some confusion regarding...
Just before you start off, so for anybody that doesn't know Sophia is a mortgage broker for Penny House Financial. So she's absolutely fantastic. We speak to her quite regularly. So please, Sophia, please add anything on this that can help.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so with the payment holidays, now that obviously because it's the government, I've been told that it doesn't impact your credit going forward. There is some confusion around it because previously it has done for certain lenders. Now the lenders that I've spoken to have said that it's not going to. All I could say is if you need to take the payment holiday, firstly think about it, because it isn't free money, as you've been saying. You do have to pay that money back, and the way that they'll do it is, say you've got £1,000 a month for your mortgage, yes, you'll save 3,000, but they'll then spread that over the cost of the rest of the term. So you are then going to pay compounded interest as well for the rest of the mortgage term. So it can work out really expensive to do it that way. So only do it if you need to. And also, when you are doing it, I know the wait times are ridiculous. Yes, you can do it online with Halifax, but I would recommend doing it on the phone with somebody, because you really want to be noting down the time, the date, and the person that you spoke to, and getting them to confirm to you that this is not going to impact you and your credit line going forward, so that if it does later on, you can go back to that. Because one thing that I've been speaking to other brokers about this as well. I don't think they're going to want the bad press. If you then can't get your credit later on because of coronavirus and because of the payment holidays, I don't think any lender is going to want. Another handy thing on this as well is payment holidays have been around, for a very long time. It's not a new concept, but they never let you have, if you've got any properties that are on consent to let, so a residential mortgage, you've asked them for consent to rent them out, they will never give you payment holidays. But now with this, they do. So that's also worth noting if anybody's got one of those.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that, Sophia. That's brilliant. That's really useful for even myself, because one of my mortgages is on a consent to let currently. So that's great. Okay, so we're going to finish up talking about how this is going to impact us long term. Are we going to go into a recession? Before we do that, I know we've got George on the call. We've been talking quite heavily about how this has impacted various things this week. George, do you want to add anything at this point to anything we talked about? Are you there?
Hello.
Hey.
Hey, how are you? Thank you, Anthony, for inviting us on. Yeah, so it's George here, and Hannah wants to add something right now.
Put me on the spot. Hi, guys. Yeah, thanks for having us on, and everything that you've captured so far. You've kind of covered everything quite comprehensively. It's a lot of information you've put out. I think one of the points we were going to add just earlier on, so we're just backtracking just slightly, and we were just talking about when we were on about the rental market and how it was having an effect. We picked up something, it'd be good to get your thoughts on this. We noticed earlier there was something in the news about tenants. The landlords obviously have an obligation to care for them, but there was a case in the news where a boiler had broke, but the engineers wouldn't go in because of that tenant was showing symptoms of coronavirus. So that was just a point we was going to add on, another effect it was having on the rental market, but that's more from a tenant perspective, more so than the demand. But everything you've captured with a lot of the SA stuff, we're going through at the moment with our service accommodation in Newport. But yeah, I think everything up until
to be honest with you, Anthony, everything that we've spoken about this week, you've pretty much covered it. I wanted to come in a few times and give my opinion on things, but you've took the words out of my mouth pretty much every time I've gone to speak. So yeah, really comprehensive so far, and thank you for your insight.
Excellent. And it's great to add that you've seen about obviously maintenance on the properties, because that personally isn't something I'd considered. And I suppose, if you self-manage your properties, or if you've got maintenance people that go in for you, or a letting agent, it's really important to probably have conversations with them now to understand how, over the next 3 months, while we're in this lockdown period, while we're in this uncertainty period, how they're going to protect that going forward. So I think that's a great point. Definitely something everybody should be adding down to see how they can make sure they do that going forward.
Yeah, I also just wanted to draw everyone's attention to the chat at the moment. Some of the stuff we've been talking about, people have commented on there. There's some great information there. And as Chantel talked about the cash grants, you need to contact your councils in order to get that. And there's a form you can fill in. Every council will undoubtedly be slightly different, but it's likely to be the same thing. The councils are the ones that give you the grant. They're the people you need to speak to. In terms of like refinancing, interest rates, all that sort of stuff, again, I'll be touching on that. Anthony's got a good document on there regarding the government reactions to COVID-19, and presumably that's all the links, the points you were talking about earlier you tried to send through.
Yeah, it was. I've sent that through now. So that, like I say, that's kindly come from another group. But, you know, it's great. This is, like I say, everyone's putting all this information together. So it's great that we can all take advantage of it. So if anybody sees anything going forward, that's really useful. And, you know, just the things that people are sharing are great that we're going to have to do that. Yeah. Okay, so
keep an eye on the chat as we go through. People are constantly updating and adding points in. There's really useful links and documents in there as well.
Excellent. And like I say, if we do miss anything, you know, we're going to go through recession now. Hopefully, you know, we'll wrap up in about half an hour or so. If not, you know, thank you so much for staying on as long as you have done, guys. And we will do some questions at the end. So please do stay around if you are, you know, finding this useful. That you know, that's great. So we're going to talk about the recession right now. And, you know, I've been doing a lot of research around this going forward because James and I were having a conversation the other day on the phone. Are we going to go into a recession? What does it look like for the market? What does it look like going forward? And I said to James, I don't personally think we are going to go into a recession. I said, I think we'll hit a very small one, which actually, you know, you could potentially label as a depression. But actually, if you look at the market right now, I've been following quite a lot of people and seeing how they're reacting to what's going on. And house prices currently are staying the same. You know, they aren't changing a lot at the minute. Now, what is happening is sellers absolutely are ready to sell right now. You know, and we've got John on the call. John and I have been talking quite frequently today about a house that he's selling, and you know, he's got it on the market, so he's willing to sell this property. But the problem is there is no buyers at the minute. And the reason there's no buyers is because we've fallen into this uncertainty and everybody has fallen into fear mode. So this is why I think prices are going to stay the same at the minute, because there's no buyers, but there still is sellers. So that market is just going to stay sort of stagnant. Now, the problem with this is this fear causes risk factor. Now, when fear kicks in, people start to become selfish. Now, we've already talked about this. You know, this is the whole reason why, just while we've been on this call this evening, because people are being selfish. You know, there's hordes of people out there in supermarkets hoarding things they don't need to, going out when they absolutely unnecessarily don't need to. And that's what fear does, is it causes people to become selfish. And the same thing is going to happen to us in the property market if we're not careful. Because people are going to become fearful and they'll become selfish, and it will affect the property market going forward, and potentially what will cause us to go into a depression or a recession. So this same thing happened in 2008, whereas what happened is people become selfish, and somebody's got their house on the market and they might need some money, they might want to move away. So they think, right, do you know what? I want to sell my house first, so I'm going to drop my price now, because of what's going on in the current climate. So they drop their price on the property, trying to sell their house quickly, trying to be the first that sells their house. Then what happens is the agent down the street, who quite frequently watches what's going on with the market, then goes, oh my gosh, that person's dropped their house prices. We need to now drop ours. And then before you know it, 2 or 3 weeks have gone down the line and all the house prices have dropped. And then that's obviously going to cause a huge impact in the market, because it will just pass down house to house. And this, like I said, the same thing is what happened to us in 2008. It's just there was bigger impact because people were highly leveraged versus where they are currently now. So I personally think if you are selling right now, and sellers in the market, absolutely the thing that they should be doing right now is keeping prices the same. Now, this isn't to say that you shouldn't be asking for below market value offers on properties, because, you know, everybody wants to get a bargain. You know, we're in this as investors. Everybody wants a slice of the pie along the line. Definitely, you still should be asking for below market value offers. But I think ethically what you shouldn't be doing right now is, if you're literally about to complete on the property, you shouldn't be now going back to them and saying, I want 10 grand knocking off that price because of the coronavirus and because of the uncertainty. because all that's going to do is it's going to distort the whole market, and it's going to impact everybody for a very long time if we continue to do that. So that's just my opinion on it from an ethical perspective. That's how I think that I would do it. But however, if you are in the process of buying a property at the minute, and this is where the lines kind of skew a little bit. If you are at the buying a property at the minute, and actually what's going to happen is, you know full well that now with everything that's changed, this uncertainty, that property isn't going to work, then to walk away from it or to step back from it or to ask for a discount or whatever it might be is absolutely the right business perspective to do. So it's about just understanding the difference between the two. Same time, you know, making sure that we're not impacting the market. And what's interesting is I've just seen a comment coming from John. I can see 20% drop in prices within 5 years. Yeah, exactly. This is what's going to happen. Everybody's going to panic because somebody's going to become selfish, and everyone's prices are going to go down. So it's important that we hold the prices where they are currently at the minute. Because, and this is why I think that we're in a completely different situation now than where we were in 2008. Because I believe there is a huge demand out there for people wanting to buy houses. You know, we've been waiting to buy houses because of Brexit. And then all of a sudden, when Boris came into power, everybody wanted to buy houses. You know, I've seen it referred to as the Boris bounce. You know, house prices went back up. Everybody now wants to buy houses because Brexit has now been undone. Now coronavirus has come back again, and it's disturbed the confidence again in the market. And it's disturbed that level of demand. And all of a sudden, people are fearful of buying again. So I think we will see a huge crash if people start panic selling. But the prices, personally, I think they'll go down. And then I think as we start to come towards the end of the year, they'll start to come back up again. And James, I know you and I were talking about this recently. So is there anything you want to add at this point?
Yeah, I mean, my view's slightly different to yours. I think you're right over the next 12 months. Personally, I don't think we're going to see a recession in 2020. If we do, it's going to be at least the fourth quarter, if not the last month. And the reason for that is, a lot of you would have noticed a couple of weeks ago, we had probably the worst day in the FTSE 100 since the 1980s. And the markets, the trading markets, the FX markets fell off a cliff. Now, those sorts of markets respond very, very quickly to news, like literally overnight, minutes, hours, things change. If someone floats a new company, you'll see the stock market change literally in minutes. Whilst the housing market is an awful lot slower to go through. And the main reason for that is you can sell a share in a second, you can sell a house in 3 months. So you've always got a delay in the housing market of what's going to happen. In terms of comparing it to 2008, I think will be considerably bigger than what we're expecting. And the main reason for that is the cause of the crash was the housing market. The housing market itself collapsed and the banks collapsed with it. And when you have the root cause in the housing market, it's obviously going to be the main thing that's affected. Whilst at the moment, the crash that I think we're likely to have in 2021 is a result of, as you say, prolonged uncertainty with Brexit. Yeah, it's done now. We have a decision and it goes through in January next year. But, you know, the UK economy and the people are by and large over that uncertainty. We've now got coronavirus, and the likelihood is a lot of these mortgage holidays, you know, the tenant evictions, all this sort of stuff, well, it's all really, really good. There's a knock-on effect that's waiting to come back, and you'll notice an awful lot of the grants and the savings and all the rest of it are for small businesses. The really big businesses, the people who kind of run the country, the banks, you know, the really large corporations that you'll see listed on the FTSE and the Dow Jones, those people don't really have these measures from the government to help support them because they know that they have the cash available and they have the income to ride out this short storm of will probably be 3 or 4 months. But in the long run, they're going to want to get their profits back. Their businesses, at the end of the day, they're profit driven. That's what they want to do. And you will see that they will probably make more money out of it. The other thing that I've noticed, and I'm sure Sophia will back me up on this, whilst the banks at the Bank of England have slashed their interest rates, lenders are not slashing theirs. Lending interest is going up, and I've noticed a significant change since the start of the year in the ability to get financing, especially on the slightly larger refurbs, the development finances, the land buildings. Like, it's not quite as easy as it used to be, and I would imagine it's going to get more difficult as lenders get squeezed, as the big boys get squeezed. They'll ride it out for a few months, and then they'll come and hit us afterwards. Having said that, we're still progressing with our developments. We've got 2 on the go at the moment. We're due to exchange next week on one of our biggest ones. And we're still going through it. But we've worked out the timescales of both projects, and we know when we're going to be exiting. Because the risk for us isn't really in getting financing. We know we're going to get that through. We've got a great power team. We've already bought it. You know, we're going through conveyancing. That's not really affected by it. Tradesmen, we've spoken with the tradesmen, our builders. They still have a good team of tradesmen. They're still happy to work. You know, we're not concerned by that at the moment because we've checked that our power team is good. It's the exit where the risk is. So if you're selling or refinancing, where's that value going to be? If you're selling, are you going to have people who can buy? Are they going to be able to buy? Is there going to be lending available? You know, when are you exiting? Now, one of them we're planning on exiting in around about 4 or 5 months. Now, by that time, Corona should be over, and in theory, we shouldn't have really seen any massive drops in the housing market at that stage unless something horrendous happens in between. That should be okay. The other one is a 2-year build. By that point, I'm hoping we're out of any recession that's due to come. So I know that given the timescales that are involved, the recession, the drop in house price, whatever it is that we're likely to get, shouldn't really affect us because I know the timescales of my developments, and we'll be talking about this in a little bit more detail later. George raised a good point regarding bridging finance. I mean, one of the things we say anyway is to, you know, get more bridging than you need. Most bridging finance companies will give you a 12-month loan for a 3-month project. And the biggest thing I've seen with bridging finance, the fees are not really in the interest. If you're doing a standard buy for every finance model, you're buying at 50K, spending 20 on it, it's worth 100, something like that. You know, your interest per month is around about £1,000, and it will not kill your deal. It won't be as good, but it won't kill your deal if it went on for another 2 months. It's an extra £2,000. Yes, it's not ideal, but it's not horrendous. The thing that really makes bridging expensive is your lender fees, your broker fees, your valuation fees, all this sort of stuff. Again, that's unlikely to be affected by what's to come and what's going on now. So, yeah, I think we're going to talk a lot about recession and what we can do if it comes up, just because I think it's great to be prepared. But there's a hell of a lot we can still do. There's a hell of a lot of ways we can still make money. There's still good points in all of this. And honestly, I don't think it's going to be that bad. I think it's going to be interesting, but I don't think it's going to be horrendous. But we have had some pretty good indicators of it. For those of you who are more into economics, you may have heard of something called an inverted yield curve. Basically, it's a graph that only ever seems to switch over before a recession. It has done for the last few. It did it, I think it was about 6 to 8 months ago now, correct me if I'm wrong. The other thing you see is that gold tends to go up before a recession as investors pull their money out of regular investments and into safer things like gold. That tends to move up as well. I haven't actually looked at the gold charts recently, but if that is moving up, that would be another indicator. Central banks cut their interest rates. We've seen that. A general global weakening of the economy with things like the trade wars. Germany was very, very close to recession at the end of last year. Italy is in recession. Greece is in recession. Spain still hasn't recovered from 2008. There's a hell of a lot of countries around this planet, first and second world countries, that contribute to our economy and our trade that aren't doing particularly well. We're actually not doing that badly in the grand scheme of things. So when you look at these indicators, if I was a betting man, I would say we have recession on our hands. But I'm also not concerned because I know what we can do. And it was only, 12 years ago, we had 2008, one of the biggest crashes in history, a hell of a lot of data from that, a hell of a lot of stats. A lot of people lived through it. And there's a lot of brokers that were still operating through that time and still are now. There's solicitors, there's accountants, all these people, a lot of them were operating through that period. There'll be other investors that operate through that period. So I think, yeah, we're probably likely to have one, but I don't think it's a massive cause for concern. You just need to sort of be aware of what's going to happen and some of the things you can do to mitigate what's coming forwards is what I would say, yeah.
Excellent. Thanks for that, James.
No worries.
So, yeah, James touched on developments there, and he said that we're still continuing with ours. And again, I was talking to a developer yesterday, and he was saying, yeah, they're still looking to build houses. They're still looking to continue with these developments. It's all in the exit, and it's all in focusing on what's going to happen at the exit of the project. So one of the reasons we're still going ahead with ours is because people still need to live somewhere. Forgetting everything that's happening right now, there still is a housing shortage, and we still need to provide for that demand of the housing shortage. So that's absolutely why we're continuing with our developments, because of that housing stock. And I know Do you want to share anything about developments? What are you seeing come on at the minute? I know you were going through it in 2008, so you got any insights you'd like to share at all, David?
Hi, Anthony. Yes. Regarding the development side, and we're starting now working from home, but we're still actively looking for sites. We're taking the time now to go around all the sites we've been looking at previously and all the developer clients. Whilst the whole thing could last 2 to 3 months in total, but the development side can take a year. So they're taking this opportunity to now spend more time looking at sites and appraising them all. So whilst we were stopping looking at residential, we're looking at residential and commercial again. So from beginning of the week, the actual developer clients instructed us to carry on working and actually actively find sites for them. So whilst we can't go visit them physically sometimes, but we can still drive around and still use Google Maps and Google Earth to assess them. So at the moment, they're taking on board that there's not actually anything going to affect them in the short term. Obviously, in the long term, the house price market and the land market might drop a little bit, but they're not expecting it to drop like you said before. They're not actually looking for a total recession at the moment because it's a different scenario to 2008. It's a medical situation. Yes, the stock markets will do what they normally do and they'll go down and then go back up again. Regarding land values, property prices, they might dip a little bit, but they're not looking at them to wholesale. Hence, most of my clients are not offloading any of their properties. If they were looking at a wholesale dip in the market, they'd try and offload and capitalize on the market now, but they're not.
Excellent. That's fantastic. Thank you so much for that, David. Really appreciate that. Okay, so talking about, so we talked about where we feel currently based on what we can see, what a recession looks like at the minute. But I do, like James has said, we are heading for one is imminent, but potentially not right now. So again, we talked earlier about getting your business in order, making preparations right now to make sure that you can be prepared for that. And every single one of you on this call that I know personally, this is all of your opportunity to take advantage of it. So we're just going to finish up now with James. He's going to talk about the good things about recession and how we can make money in a recession. So I'm going to hand you over to James and let him talk through that section for us if we can.
Thank you, Anthony, and thank you for leading that opening. I think there's a hell of a lot of value in there. There's some stuff I hadn't come across either. So, like I say, thank you for that. As I mentioned, there's a lot of good things about recession. I just want to open with a fact. There were more millionaires made in 2008 than at any point previously in history, and 9 out of 10 millionaires are made during a recession. So the question is, how do we be one of the 9 and not one of the 1? That you can always make money in any market, going up, going down, going sideways. It varies depending on the sector you operate in. But property, you can still make money when it goes down. I mean, for the main reasons why I think there's good things is, number one, there's less competition. Everybody who's not on this call, or other people who are getting into property, or they could even be experienced landlords who don't know what they're doing, they're not going to be competing with you. If you're a deal sourcer and there's other deal sourcers that can't sell deals, hey, you're not competing with them anymore. People aren't going to be wanting to buy houses as much. That means you've got more availability for booking viewings. Specific things like that. There's less competition in your sector because people are not going to be able to perform the same way that you will if you know what you're doing, which is why education is so key when you're looking at changes in the market. The other thing that usually happens with a recession is any crash that we do have, whether it be a 10% drop, 20% drop, 50% drop, doesn't really matter. The growth on the other side is always more. If you look at London in 2008, a lot of London halved their prices in a very, very short period of time. And yet, if you look at the 3 to 5 years after 2008, a lot of places tripled in value. Your capital growth is nearly always better after a crash than the crash is during when it goes down. So even if you bought at the height of the market, obviously it's area dependent, but if you bought at the height of the market, the likelihood is by the time the next crash comes around, or if you wait long enough anyway, your house will be worth more. So you're never really going to lose a lot of this. The other thing I'd say is rents tend to go up during a recession, not down, because people can't buy. As we already mentioned, you can't get lending. People still have to live somewhere. Rents tend to go up. And for those people who are developing, when you're building to rent, the tax rules are slightly more complicated, but the back of 2008, they brought out some very good tax incentives for developers who built houses, couldn't sell them, couldn't lay them off, and then wanted to rent them out for the long term. There are some good tax incentives for that, and they are still around. So if you are going through developments and your plan is to sell and you can't sell, there are some tax incentives to allow you to rent those properties out for a few years until you look to sell them on afterwards. The other thing I'd say is people still want to buy. When we say lending gets more difficult, and when we say the housing market goes down or it crashes or prices go down, not all purchases and sales stop. You know, it can sometimes think, oh, there's going to be a crash, I can't buy a house. It's not quite like that. You know, people still buy houses. There are still millions of transactions every sort of year or month. I don't know what the exact figure is, but there are millions and millions of houses in this country, and they're sold all of the time. So when you're looking at this, there's no need to be massively fearful. You can still get lending. It just won't be as easy as before. It'll probably be more expensive. It's not the end of the world, despite what a lot of people might say, what the media might say. You can still buy houses, you can still sell houses, you can still rent out houses, you can still do serviced accommodation. Everything is still there, it just slightly changes. And when you're looking at it from a business perspective, what makes profit and what makes more profit was likely to change. So it's not horrendous. The other thing I'd say is, regardless of your view on politics, the Conservatives are in power at the moment. And traditionally speaking, and I don't want to start a political debate here, they tend to be better at looking after the economy if we look back over the last 100 years, which is a good thing. At the same time, as Anthony already said, at the moment, they're probably the most Labour party of Tories I've ever seen, with the amount of public spending we have, the way they're looking after people. And for the first time ever, Jeremy Corbyn issued a statement earlier on this evening agreeing with Boris Johnson. So there is some form of community within the government. Even the government are coming together in this time, and it's not horrendous. But the Conservatives said when they came into power that they were going to build a hell of a lot of houses. Now, whilst they haven't built a lot themselves, what they have done is brought out incentives for developers, one of them being Help to Buy. And when you look at the fact that they have this quota of houses they need to buy, they're going to continue rolling out tax incentives for developers who are making serious money developing houses because they have to fill houses. People need somewhere to live. Social housing is completely overwhelmed. Someone mentioned earlier, sorry, I can't remember who it was, that they have a big booking from social housing in one of their serviced accommodation units. It's because the councils need somewhere to put people. And there's also a government initiative to get people off the streets and into houses. If there aren't any houses to put them in, you can't move them there. And whilst the government want more houses built, they will continue to keep pushing out incentives for developers to continue building houses, which is great news for the rest of us, because as they build, they have to sell or rent, and it will continue to drive the market. The other thing that happens is you get foreign investment to buy these. A lot of investments are sold off plan with guaranteed yields of 8% for 3 years. And a lot of those investors come from the Far East or from the Middle East. And foreign investment into the UK in any form, especially in large amounts, millions or billions, helps drive the economy. One thing we've seen in Birmingham recently with the announcement of HS2 is a huge amount of flats and blocks of buildings being built and bought off plan by people from Hong Kong, people from Singapore. And if you want this sort of information, one place I'd really recommend getting it, there's a company called JLL. Now, if you don't know who these people are, next time you're in a city of any sort, look at any of the new builds and you'll see their sign on them. JLL are the largest real estate investment firm, I guess you could call them, globally. They sell like massive, like Four Seasons resorts in the Maldives, but they also sell office blocks. They sell standard sort of residential housing, blocks of flats, etc. But they issue big reports on local areas regarding capital growth, planning that's gone through, all that sort of stuff. And they give you a lot of information about what's going on. Very, very detailed. It's quite high level, obviously looking at millions and billions rather than looking at hundreds of thousands or thousands. But it's still very, very interesting to read. It gives you a better understanding of the economy in local areas like Birmingham, London, Manchester, wherever it might be that you're looking at. So read some of that as they begin to produce reports, because again, they will still need to make money. And educate yourself on what is going on throughout a recession, so you can begin to see when it's going to come back up, when things are getting more positive. When the main media are saying it's positive, you're too late. The media is always behind where the investments and the banks are being, so you want to be getting in towards the start. Now, these documents are freely available. You can get them through the website and stuff like that, or simply ring up the office and act like you're an investor, like you do when you're pretending to be a tenant to find out the local rent in an area. You know, have some fun with it, get some more information. From a deal sourcing perspective, and for people who are raising funds to do deals, when you come into recession, all your amateur investors will walk away because they don't think it's possible. They don't think you can make money. That means you're left with experienced investors. And as someone who deals with investors on a regular basis, I can tell you some are a nightmare, some are very easy to work with. And when you're dealing with an easy to work with investor, your life is better than if it is, dealing with someone who's a bit of a pain. But if you have experienced investors, especially if they're around in the 08 crash, or they know about global economics, they can understand markets, they will know when they want to buy. And a lot of the time, you haven't got to tell them that there's good news in a recession. They'll still buy. They might tailor their approach, but they will still buy. They still know how to push deals through. And as long as you seem like someone who actually knows what they're talking about and you've educated yourself, you'll still maintain that trust with investors. Someone asked earlier, am I still selling deals? Yes, I am still selling deals. We've sold deals every single week this year. We haven't had a week where we haven't sold deals. Every deal I've sent out, bar one, has sold. As it happens, that was a rent-to-service accommodation. And yes, I would blame that on the market. But everything else is still selling. I still have investors who want to buy. And I'll talk about ways in which you can build a better rapport with your investors, and you can begin to educate them on what's going on. The other thing that happens during a recession is we have change. Now, fundamentally, a recession is a change in the markets of what's going on, but it's a change in mindset of people, change in government. Everything seems to change. Change means opportunity. This is why you have so many millionaires that are coming through during recessions. It's because there's change. And change just means opportunities. You got an opportunity put in front of you. You just need to work out how you can make money. There's a book called The Richest Man in Babylon, which I really recommend people reading. In the middle of that, there's a chapter regarding luck. Now, the way they describe luck, or the goddess of good luck, as they refer to it as, is simply opportunity. People who are lucky are people who took opportunity and it worked out. People who are unlucky are simply people who ignored the opportunity. There's some stories in there that help to explain that philosophy a little bit better. It's not a particularly long book. I would recommend that you get it. So when you're looking at recession, you're looking at change, don't be fearful. If you don't know what you're doing, that's fine. I'll level with you. About 2 months ago, I knew some of what was happening, but I didn't really know a lot. I've done a lot of reading since. I've been educating myself on what happened back in 08. I've been educating myself, speaking to other people in different sectors, not just property, and understanding what is going on. And speaking to some of my investors, understanding again what is going on. Speaking to my power team, what is going on. My brokers have rang me. I've spoken to my brokers, my solicitors, saying, hey, how are your teams doing? What's going on? What can we expect in the next few months? Get involved, communicate with your team and with the community, and educate yourself on what's going on. Whenever you have an opportunity presented in front of you, especially if it's a new opportunity, you have an opportunity to take it or not. And when you do, a lot of the time, it can be quite fearful. Anytime you feel a bit scared or you're a little bit nervous about something, for me, that is a guidance. It's a light saying, this is where you need to go. You don't feel comfortable doing that. You need to do it because you need to step out of your comfort zone. You need to grow personally. Now, even if you can't grow your business or you can't grow your property portfolio, although I do think you can, even if you can't do that, grow yourself. There's going to be so many opportunities and so many people talking crap and being negative. You don't want that. Take this as an opportunity for yourself, to grow your outlook on life, be positive, to understand what's going on. And if you don't know what's going on, find out what's going on, speak to people. But you have a massive opportunity to grow, yes, your business, yes, your property portfolio, and yourself. There's always opportunity to do this sort of thing. The bigger the change, the bigger the opportunity. So for me, they're the main reasons why there's good news amongst all of this bad news. Yes, what is going on is completely terrible, and I wouldn't wish anybody to get coronavirus. I've been very, very lucky. No one has close to me has caught it, although there have been some scares. But at the same time, we can then rejoice and say, look, well, we haven't got it. We're still healthy. What can we do to help other people? So maintain positivity. There's always a silver lining to every cloud. You're taught that as a kid. As I say, there's a pro to every con and a con to every pro. There's always another way of looking at things. How can you look at the problem you're faced with at the moment, whether it be a shortfall in rent or a change of circumstances in terms of your job or whatever it is? How can I look at it from a positive light and maintain a clear head? It's statistically proven that optimists live longer than pessimists. So if there's any reason at all to be positive in this world, it's got to be that, so that you can live a little bit longer and enjoy yourself. Now we come on to an important question now, which is how can you make money during this recession? But before I move on to that, is there anybody who wanted to add another reason why the recession is good, or anything good that we can get from the next sort of few weeks or months or years of things that are coming on ahead? No? Awesome. That must mean I've covered everything. I love it. So how can we make money? I already mentioned the markets will go up afterwards. So if you buy at the bottom, go on, sorry.
Before we carry on, I know we've gone on for quite a while now. Guys, are you okay? You still with us? Happy for us to continue talking about how we can make money into recession, and then we'll go into some questions. Just let us know if not, but we're going to carry on. So we'll try and wrap up as quickly as we can, but appreciate your time. Excellent.
Awesome. I will endeavour to keep this short and brief without cutting out too much information. Someone's already asked. The whole thing is recorded. We will be making it available later. If anyone needs to go, and obviously let yourself go. But it's been wonderful having you. How can we make money in property? I've already mentioned the markets will go up. If you buy at the bottom, you're going to get a nice capital gains appreciation, which is really, really nice. If you buy at the top of the market and you time it badly, if you're creative with how you buy your house, it might not be more your money that you're losing. It could be the bank's, in which case I sleep perfectly fine knowing that I made more money than the bank. So when you're looking at these sorts of deals, when you're looking at going into property, if you can, time it so you buy at the bottom of the market, but it's not essential. So one thing I wanted to talk about was buy, refurb, refinance. Now, the idea of a buy, refurb, refinance is you're adding value to a property to then get a higher valuation and pull your money back out. Now, even the best markets, we're at the mercy of the valuers, the people who come around and say, yes, your house is worth X. If they start down valuing things, that's something to be aware of when you're looking to obviously achieve a higher valuation. Now, obviously, the first thing we'll say to you is be super conservative. Put a lower figure on what you expect it's going to be. If you think it's been worth 100 grand when it's done, the sole comparable say 100 grand, awesome. Do your figures at 90. If it stacks at 90, I'd be confident thinking you're going to get the valuation. Like I say, during a crash, you can still buy houses, you can still refinance your houses. It doesn't stop. People still carry on doing what they need to do. At the same time, if you know you can see it's moving down and has done solidly for the last 2 months, and your project's going to take 3 months to complete, where do you think it's going to be in 3 months' time? I personally, as the market is crashing, given it won't be crashing for years and years and years, it'll be several months, will look to begin to avoid buy, refurb, refinance, or look to complete on my house, the actual purchase side of it, at the bottom of it, knowing what my end value is going to be based on it being further down. Or I want to complete before the market crashes, have the refinance out the way, and then look, I'm refinancing at the top of the market, getting the most amount of value from my house I can, get all my cash back, and then it doesn't matter if it crashes because the 25% equity at the top was never mine anyway. I made it out of thin air. That's how the strategy works. So although I might lose some of my equity, I never really had it in the first place. I haven't lost any money from my pockets. I can still go on and do more deals. Yeah, I'd rather it didn't go down. I'd rather it went up. But it doesn't mean the strategy is broken. It doesn't mean that I can't then go do a deal. It doesn't mean that I'm going to lose money out of my own pocket, out of my own bank account. It's important sometimes that, yes, look at the gross, the big picture, what's going on, but equally focus on what you're doing and on your net figures and how that stacks up. Is it going to affect you personally or your tenants or anybody in your family? No. Then I'm happy. If it affects the bank, then it affects the bank. But we're not going to cause a big enough effect on the bank to knock out everybody else. So I wouldn't be too concerned by that. I already mentioned rents go up as the market goes down because people can't buy. So if you are buying for something and your valuation is rental based, then great news, your valuation might actually go up during the crash. In the same way, if you're buying something to rent out and you want to hold it for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, your rents are likely to go up, the yields will get better, your return on investment is going to get better. I don't see any reason why that would be bad news to me. And if you ask yourself, when was the last time you saw rents go down? They don't. Because we as landlords decide what we want to do, and the vast majority of landlords are very, very capitalist. They're very much, they're there. I don't want to go down. I want to continue earning more money. So the rents are not likely to drop during this. They're more likely to go up, especially as it becomes apparent people are unable to buy, as lending gets more difficult, as rates go up. Again, there is still some good news in this. Two big things. Anthony mentioned about discounted prices. If we get a big crash, there's going to be a hell of a lot of discounted houses out there. Not only that, discounted portfolios. One of my first deals, one of the things that sort of, I guess, put me on the map, if you will, was a large portfolio. I've seen how they work. I've seen the cash flow you can produce from them. And as a deal sourcer, I've seen the fees that you can charge for it. Not only that, if you can come along to a landlord who's usually pretty creative in how he buys houses, portfolios, big portfolios, heavily discounted values are wonderful things to be getting on lease options. And as the market crashed, lease options have become more and more and more attractive to people because you can buy a house when they can't sell it. Not only that, you're buying it at the bottom of the market. You're agreeing your price on the today's value as it's just crashed. Well, you're about to get, almost guaranteed, a nice growth period which you can benefit from in your capital appreciation. If I was taking on a lease option right now, I would not want it to be 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year. I'd be looking 5 minimum upwards, ideally, because I know what is likely to come, and you're going to need to allow some time for the market to fall. It will fall fairly quickly. It will grow fairly slowly, but the whole period won't be a huge amount of time. You're not talking 20 years to get something over and done with. So keep your eye on lease options, keep your eye on the house prices and what's going on, and see if you can predict when that bottom is going to be. And as you're going for lease options and discounted houses, remember, if you're looking for a refinance, I need 10 grand off my evaluation to be conservative, and that means I need 10 grand off my purchase price. You can always claim it back somewhere. Do deals with your builders, with your solicitors, see if you can get cheaper fees, and you can claim some of your money back. Obviously, if you buy cheaper, you pay less stamp duty. So if you knock 10 grand off a purchase price of a house, you may well save £300 in stamp duty. So that the more you can knock off, the better. But as Anthony says, be ethical in your negotiations. If you know someone genuinely can't take something, but they're saying yes anyway because they see no other way, offer them something better. Usually a lease option is going to work pretty well. Something else I wanted to bring up was power teams. I mentioned that I'd spoken to my power teams. The better your power team in the situation, the more able you're going to be able to buy things. When we're looking at deals these days, I'm constantly asking myself the question, do I actually care what the interest rate's going to be? Do I really care what the fees are going to be? To level with you, no, I don't. Most of the time, I just want the loan. I don't really care how it looks. I just need that money. If it costs me money, fine. Tell me what it is. I'll work into the deal. I'll claim it back from somewhere else, a higher valuation, better rents, or cheap build costs, whatever it might be. I just need the loan. As you're going down through the recession, as lending gets more difficult, it gets more difficult, but you need a better broker to be able to get you the same lending you had before, or be able to get the loan that you need with slightly higher rates. And then you simply look, okay, how else can I claim some of that money back? On the really big deals, several £1 million, then yeah, your interest is huge. On the small ones, the interest rate is not going to make a huge amount of difference. If you're buying to let, then yes, if you have a jump from 3% to 4% of your mortgage payments, it's going to be a little bit higher. But if you're buying right now, fix your rates for at least 5 years is what my personal opinion is. I can't give you advice, but my personal opinion is fix your rates for at least 5 years. And then you know that whatever happens to the banks, you're going to be fine over this period. And focus on when you're doing the deals, especially if it's a bridging loan or development finance type product. As long as I get the loan, just take whatever rate you're going to get. If you can do better, you can do better, but take what rate you're going to get, factor that into your deal, and find a way of claiming those costs back from elsewhere. You will find that if you're buying something for £70,000, if it's going to cost you an extra £2 grand in interest, getting it for 68 isn't that much to ask. A lot of the time you'll be able to get it. When you're looking at market crashes, I mentioned area is important. In 2008, London was hit hardest. Other areas were hit as well. And if we look at those areas, especially up in the northeast or parts of the far northwest, the houses haven't recovered. There are houses that we're buying now for I literally looked at one today. We're buying it at 47 grand and it's sold at 95,000 in 2008. That offer's been accepted. They're not worth what they were back then. It's unlikely they're going to go that much further down because they know that as they drop, people won't be able to buy below 30 grand because they have to buy in cash. It's actually easier to buy the house at a more expensive figure when you get to those low rates. When you're buying in really cheap areas, I wouldn't be massively concerned about capital depreciation because there's not an awful long way for it to go. The other thing is if we have a drop of 20%, which I think is probably reasonable as it happens, if you bought it for 100 grand, it's now worth 80. If you bought it for $1 million, it's now worth 800. Losing 20 grand is painful. Losing 200 grand is really painful. So when you're buying houses, the cheaper houses are unlikely to go down as much, and the more expensive ones are likely to go down more. However, the ones that drop more are equally more likely to bounce back harder and faster than the other areas, because capital appreciation in this country follows London. London will see a drop. It's been dropping for the last couple of years. In truth, it hasn't really moved. London will see a nice drop, especially as they bring out tax rules on foreign nationals buying and increased stamp duty. But it's the one, personally, I don't do a lot of investing in London anyway, so it doesn't really concern me. But if you are buying in the south or the southeast, it can affect you. If you're buying in the Midlands, the Midlands is going to be a really interesting place. I think the Midlands is going to hit a little bit just because the amount of properties I've seen recently being bought for way more than they're actually worth. I know a lot of down valuations are already happening in the Midlands. Going further north, I genuinely think it's not going to be that bad. I think for the vast majority of people, it's going to be almost unnoticeable. It's not really going to affect them. But lending will definitely follow the rules of what's already happening. It's already getting more difficult. It's already getting more expensive. But the main place you're going to see the restrictions on lending is going to be in your residential mortgage sector, which is a little bit more risky than buy-to-let because people are paying for it out of their own pocket. And then in the development finance, land developments, and large bridging loans, I think that's where you're likely to see issues. For me, one of the strategies that I think are going to work really, really well, anything where you've got tenants, really. If you're going to be working with HMOs or rent to HMOs, a lot of landlords, although the rental market's not really going to be affected that much, a lot of landlords will think, oh, there's a crash, I'm going to lose all my tenants. Inexperienced landlords, if you present them a rent-to-rent opportunity with a rent-to-HMO, a lot of the landlords are going to take that and go, yes, I've got guaranteed rent for 3 years, I'm happy, awesome, thank you very much. At the same time, if you're buying a house to rent out, try and get it at a bit of a discount because you're probably going to lose a bit. Or if you can, buy it, do a little bit of work to it, and then look to refinance if possible. But if you're buying something to rent out, just say, look, I'm holding this for more than a year. What happens in the next 2 to 5 years isn't really that important. What matters is what's going to happen over the course of me holding that property. If you hold the property for 30 years, it's unlikely that crashes are going to have too much of an information on you and what's going on. So for me, I think anything with tenants involved is going to be great. Deal sourcing. Hey, if you can get houses seriously below market value and you genuinely have a good grasp of the markets and what's going on about lending, you've got great power teams. In all honesty, if you're speaking to investors and you can have all this information available and you can tell them why it's a good idea to be investing now, why it's a good area, why it's a good deal, ultimately, they're more likely to go with you. Again, it comes down to your ability to sell. Like, how good are you at convincing someone that your deal is good? Of course, make sure your deal is good and don't sell crap deals. But if you know what you're doing and you can impart that on your investors, I don't think you're going to have much issues. And if you're working with serious investors who know what they're doing, you know, I've got a couple of investors I've already spoken to, and they're gearing up to release £3 million to buy during a recession in cash because they know what's going to happen afterwards, and they're ready, and they're going, look, you know what, we're actually keeping our cash back for the next few months because we're hoping that everything falls off a cliff and we can swoop in and buy everything discounted. From a deal sourcer's perspective, this is great. I've got people gearing up to buy, you know, so from a deal sourcing perspective, I think that's still going to go really, really well. Adapt your strategies, adapt your figures, bear in mind lending will be more expensive, bear in mind what is going on, how people can buy. If you're going to be doing flips or developments where you're looking to sell at the end, bear in mind where the valuation is going to be. Can you sell? Can people buy? So bear all that in mind and probably lean towards the rental market. I personally would lean towards the rental market for the next couple of years rather than looking to buy to then sell. Of course, if your development is long enough, like one of ours is, that you're likely to be selling after the recession, that's okay, but know where your valuations are going to be during that time and how affected your area is going to be by the recession. If you don't know how to do that, look back at history. Look back over the areas of what's happened during different crashes. We've had multiple crashes in recent years. Look at what areas have been affected most, how they've been affected, why they've been affected. Is there any similarity between what's going on now, what was going on before? There's a lot of similarity. Recessions are cyclical in nature. Anthony said, even if we don't get one because of coronavirus, and because of Brexit, and because of trade wars, we're due one anyway. Just the law of history says every 10 years we're due a recession. We haven't really had one since 2008. We're now 12 years in. we are due a recession at some point in the next few years, just by the laws of economics. So again, it's not something to be scared about, but it's something to educate yourself on what's likely to go better. That very, very quickly is what I have on recessions. Does anybody have any questions or anything that simply just want to add? I know we've got an awful lot of people on this call. Some people are going to be far more knowledgeable than others based on what's happened. And again, there's been some great information being posted on the chat, so do have a read through that. But I'm going to open the floor up now. And Anthony, if you want to run questions, that would be great.
So thank you so much for that, James. You know, your insight always absolutely amazes me. Your knowledge level is fantastic. And I think there's a couple of points there to take away from that. You know, and then there's some questions I want to address as we're going through. So one of the first questions was, in fact, one of the points that you made, and everybody should write this down. You should always this should be your mantra for when you're buying properties. You always make your money when you buy. And that's something James touched upon. Right now in the market, if you're going to lose 10,000 off your end value, then it comes off the start. So you make your money when you buy. So just remember that when you're going forward, because that will help you no matter what type of market we're in currently. The second thing you picked up on is, and this is interesting because not enough people really focus on this, and this is how you'll know what's going on in your area, especially when you're looking at a strategy like buy, refurbish, refinance, when you're estimating end values. So you mentioned that London is already seeing these house prices drop because they've stayed the same. And that's a really interesting point. The house prices haven't necessarily gone down. Like you say, they've stayed the same, but that in turn is then obviously suggesting that there's no growth, that there is a drop. So it's just important to note that. And I did like that. There was a comment from Josh that said, are you guys basically, is this a good time to do deal sourcing? You've touched upon that, which is great. I think it's a great time to do deal sourcing if you've got the right people around you, if you've got the right investors. Like I say, I think there is a pent-up demand and people will buy outside of this. And if you are the expert and you know your area, then absolutely it's going to go really well in your favor. I just wanted to touch on quickly, we talked about George and Hannah obviously talked about the maintenance issues they'd seen with properties and coronavirus. Tina put a great point on there, which I think I really want to share because I think it's really great. She said, on the maintenance point, we've brought forward all of our gas certificates that were due in the next 6 weeks. Definitely recommend this as time goes on. It's going to be harder to get trades into the property. And I think now we've hit this lockdown period. If you're looking at maintenance on a property, that is a great tip to take away on how you can protect your properties now is get them in early, get them done. So you're protecting your property before, obviously, we've today. So potentially we're having this conversation a little bit too late, but still probably not too late that you can start taking action now and making a change.
On the tradesman note, we currently have 6 refurbs on the go. So I've been keeping an eye on these and what's going on.
We do. And you're right. I've spoken to the builders on a couple of the projects, and our buy, refurbish, refinance will continue to go along. The only point that they will stop is when they can no longer get the stock that they need. So I know we ordered the kitchen for one of the projects, and Howdens did actually tell our builder that had he have waited another week, he potentially wouldn't have got it. So it's really interesting to note that. So just be aware of what trades you need to get into the building, who needs to get access to your building, and what that looks like.
You mentioned it there with the kitchens. The biggest issue that they have, actually, from our builder's perspective anyway, is not manpower, because tradesmen tend to be a little bit more relaxed towards this sort of thing. It's buying materials. The same way how difficult it is for you to go buy bog roll or chicken breasts or whatever. The issue they have is buying materials. Speak to your builders, see if you can help. Ask other people in your industry, hey, I've got a builder in Doncaster. Is anyone else in Doncaster able to help me find materials or whatever? Or tell your builders, look, you need to be ordering building materials a week earlier than you normally would, because it's really hard to get hold of stuff at the moment. So be in communication with them, help them out. Also, be realistic on your timescales. If one of their team, like you're in the middle of doing a first fix on your electric and your electrician goes off ill with coronavirus, don't bite his head off because he's not going to get the work done on time. You had some fixed price guarantee or whatever. Be a little bit more reasonable and say, look, I understand where you're coming from. In reality, it's not going to cost you a hell of a lot of money if it goes on for an extra 2 weeks. So be understanding, but also work with them. Just work with them. What is going on at the moment? What are your problems? How can I help you solve them? Instead of them just simply doing a job for you and then you let them get on with it.
Yeah, exactly. So there's two other points I want to draw upon that people have put in the chat as well. So George and Hannah put in there just said that they completely agree with what James has said, which is fantastic. And going back to what we said about opportunities and mental health, a lot of people are running away from serviced accommodation, handing in their keys. But one thing to remember on top of what Ricky's already said, all these events that people are cancelling, they are going to reschedule them. So that's why the SA market is going to boom. And if you can ride out the next couple of months, you know, with your buffer or with talking to the vendor, you know, you're going to reap the rewards. So that's a great top tip there from Hannah. And then if we've still got Sophia on the call, somebody's just put here, I'm going to add my thoughts to this, and I'd love to get your thoughts, Sophia. So it says, do you reckon it's a good time to refinance as interest rates have dipped again? Now, me personally, so my personal perspective on this is I've got a property I'm refinancing now because the interest rates have dipped. So it's a great opportunity, I think, for me to set that rate now going forward on this property because the option has come up. I think in terms of refinancing because interest rates have dipped, this is my personal opinion, if you're going to leverage yourself a lot higher by doing that, so take money out of the property, just be careful how you're leveraging your portfolio, because if you take too much money out of the property and then we do see a big crash of 20%, then that's going to highly impact you because you're going to go from 75% leveraged to higher. So that's just my thoughts on it. But Sophia, would you like to add anything at this point?
Yeah, I'd completely agree with that. But then it's going back to a point that James made earlier. Even if you go into negative equity, depending on what your plan is and how quickly you want to buy some more, it's not your money that's being lost. Yeah. So it depends on how you're going to use it going forward. I'm certainly getting a lot of people that are remortgaging. You talk about a buffer quite a lot during this, which is really helpful, but some people just want to get a buffer behind them, so they've taken further advances or just got something to sit on. Whether it's wise to do that or put it into property, it's kind of down to personal preference, but rates are low. Some of the fixed rates haven't followed the tracker, and we're seeing a lot of the trackers being withdrawn from people like the mortgage works and whatever, but rates are still really low. I mean, I just did one for 0.9%, I think. So yeah, get it while you can.
Excellent. And then just to add at the end there, please, guys, if you've got some questions now, we'll leave it open to you. If there's no questions, we will close. It's been an absolute pleasure. That's everything we've got to present for you. So if there's any questions for us, it's been an absolute pleasure. Please add them. Eaton and Sasha just put on there areas to continue networking. Are there groups and pages you'd recommend? There's plenty of groups out there. Obviously there's for you that are on further training, you'll have academy groups, you'll have pages you're linked into. There's lots of Facebook groups out there for property investors. Just like I said, be careful where you're getting your information from at the minute. We're potentially going to try and do another one of these webinars because it's really great to just get all the people's advice from the community. So if you guys have got anything you want to add, any questions, please, now's the time, get them in and we'll answer anything before we leave.
Adding to that networking thing, I mentioned this to you the other day, and the reason why we're all here is because of social media. People are locked up in their houses. What are you going to do with your time? Most people have two options, TV and social media. Advertising companies are going to make more money than usual because they're going to get more views. And people active on social media are going to see better growth than before. They're going to see more organic growth, better likes, comments. And those, I don't know an awful lot about social media, but I know there's algorithms revolved around how your growth works. If you have a really good period of solid growth, after that sort of the coronavirus and the rest of it end, we'll go back to work, you're still going to be getting the benefits from the algorithm that you built up during the period in which we're doing this. One of the reasons why we're beginning to hit social media more is because we know there's more people looking. So focus on social media. The minute the networking events are back out, go to it. I was speaking to someone the other day. PIN is online. You can network online, effectively one of these. So the networking events, a lot of them are being creative. They're doing what they teach about being creative. You can still meet people. I know we've been advised to stay at home wherever possible, but travel for work is still allowed as long as it is essential. If you're working, there's nothing to say you can't multitask and speak to other people that you're meeting in your standard day-to-day job. Yes, we're going to be at home more, but we're still meeting people, still speaking to people. Communication hasn't simply ended. You can still network. I'm not going to tell you it's as easy as it was before, because it's not, but you can still do it. You can still grow your investors list. My growth has dropped a little bit because I haven't been out as much, but it's still growing. So I would say definitely look at social media. Amelia raised a question about commercial property. I'm gonna put my hands up and say I don't know a hell of a lot about commercial property, but the one thing I would say is if you're going to put commercial tenant in, the only way they can get out of their lease really is if they go bust. So pick a tenant that's going to survive the recession, because some markets will do much better in a recession than they will during a growth period. So if you can pick a product or the end use of the building, like the offices, shops, etc., that's going to suit someone that's going to be around for longer. Places like Co-op, Sainsbury's, Tesco, all these places are pretty recession proof. Offices, maybe not so much, but that's what I would say in terms of commercial. I can't really add much else. Maybe Anthony's got a few bits, or maybe David or anybody else who's on this call. I would just say pick a tenant type that's going to do well in the recession.
Absolutely. I was going to say the same thing. It's, like we said at the start, there are going to be businesses that disappear. So if you are picking commercial tenants, make sure they are, for want of a better word, recession proof. Somebody's just put a question there. Is this a good time to start rent to HMO business? Again, it depends on your tenant profile, who you're approaching. If you're going for students, absolutely not. Do I think that the universities will open up back in September again? Absolutely, 100%. Can I, hand on heart, agree with that? No. But, I would say that the universities are going to open back up, so there is going to be tenant demand for them. But if you're going to be doing rent to HMOs now, you need to be targeting people that are in the area, because there potentially will be a lot of HMOs that have got empty tenants with some of the businesses that have disappeared. So just be careful, check your tenant profile, speak to a great agent like Tina, who knows her area, because she'll be able to direct you better to look at that.
Auntie, that's a great question. Where can they get the recording? Where are we going to post it?
I've just seen that, yeah. So what we're going to do, James and I will post the recording on our personal social media pages. So you can get them from there. You can watch it back on there. We don't have a group as yet. I suppose it is something we'll potentially consider doing forward, but you guys have all connected through us through one of the groups that we're on, or you're with us personally. So find us on social media, find us on Facebook, Instagram. We'll put the recording on there. You guys can watch it back, but we really, really appreciate all of your time. It's been absolutely amazing. If anybody's got any further things to add, then please do. But otherwise, I think we've covered everything. I really appreciate you guys coming on.
We'll continue to answer questions periodically as they come through, but obviously feel free to leave when you want. Ali's put one in there regarding if figures are great, will investors trust a virtual tour of a property as viewings are restricted now? My question to you isn't will investors trust it, is will you trust it? Do you actually know enough about the house from a virtual tour? What I would say is build the relationship now with your agents, so when they're doing their virtual tours, you can be there before they go in and tell them what you need to see. Or better yet, FaceTime them. And then when you FaceTime them, record your FaceTime or whatever, and then direct them around the room. Say, oh, sorry, could you just turn right a second? I missed something there. That'd be a better way of doing it. I personally, with virtual tours, my answer would be no, mainly because I've seen the quality of video tours that I get from people who view houses for me. There's a lot of times where I have to send them back in because the tour wasn't good enough the first time. It seems so simple to take a video of a house, but when you need to see each and every crack, each and every corner and ceiling of a wall, and you don't have a wide angle lens, you can miss an awful lot. Or if you're moving quickly, you get blurred images. It's unlikely that a virtual tour is going to be enough for you as an investor, especially as Anthony mentioned on properties that need refurb. So probably not is my honest opinion. But if I trust it, I can definitely convince somebody else to trust it as well, as long as I know what I'm looking at.
I think it's a good starting block, isn't it? We use them for our runners and people that go around, and they help us identify very quickly. We can usually sit at home and go, right, this is going to be a 10 grand refurb because of X, Y, Z, but it always will warrant a actual visit to the property. So it will help in the starting block. It'll help you narrow down. It'll certainly help you pick properties to then go and view or to get more information from later. But okay, guys, that's everything from us. Thank you so much for coming on the call. We will pop it up on social media, as he said. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great evening. See you all soon.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.